Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters, and debunkers. When you first hear about Flat Earth, the most challenging thing to do is to even begin questioning the perception or belief that we live on the outside of a rotating globe. Because, of course, it would appear that it's already been proven as a scientific fact that we are another planet in the solar system and that we've already gained the scientific knowledge and expertise to send people off to the moon and back again safely, and, of course, to send probes off to the dusty red planet of Mars, millions of miles away. So this makes it even more obscure of a so-called conspiracy theory to even begin contemplating, because it would the idea or the understanding that we live on a globe is so embedded in our collective mindset as scientific consensus. But when we do eventually get round to scrutinizing what we are presented with and what we are not presented with in terms of the evidence to back up the claims of science allowing us to get to other worlds, is when we start to see holes in the narrative. And if we are of a slightly conspiratorial mindset, or at least with an open mind, we can begin to understand not only why would they lie, but just how easy it is to lie and get away with it. When we get the question, why would they lie, it often comes with the underlying assumption that because there are hundreds of thousands of individuals employed in the aerospace industry across the earth in various different countries, they would all have to be in on it, and it would be just impossible for all these people to tell a lie or not realize that they were part of a bigger lie. But when you look at the way any organization is structured, then most duties and jobs are very compartmentalized, and vast majority of individuals working in an organization only play a small part in the end result and are not privy to what's going on in the upper echelons. So it would be actually very easy to have hundreds and thousands of people working in very compartmentalized positions and only doing what they specialize in, and so they wouldn't have to be lying. They are in fact doing good science. There's no denying that a lot of the technology that we take for granted nowadays, even the software and the hardware that we use, is a result perhaps of the efforts in the Apollo missions, where many brilliant minds collaborated to downsize hardware and software and come up with new ways of doing things in order to communicate and navigate and put all this equipment into something the size of a capsule that was put on the top of a rocket. So yes, there is real science going on the ground here on Earth, and many brilliant minds have contributed to extraordinary developments in the scientific field and technology as well. And of course, ultimately, what often happens with technology developed for or on behalf of NASA is it does end up coming back into use in a commercial way. So NASA itself is an agent for commercial entities, and a lot of money and commerce and jobs are created just because there is a mission to do something like go to the moon or go to Mars. Whether they actually go there or not doesn't matter. The invoices are created, the money is generated, people have jobs, and they are mostly very compartmentalized specific jobs in which they really wouldn't know what other people in other departments or compartmentalized jobs are doing, and would leave those experts to do their thing. So at the top of the pyramid, you have a very few people who would still not necessarily be aware of what's actually happening if, for example, we aren't sending probes off to Mars or the Moon. The information or the data that they receive back could easily be sent from somewhere else here on Earth. So I've just taken as an example a couple of screenshots here from a recent documentary talking about Mars and talking with people that were involved in the project. And here you can see the captions for the person talking at the time, Diana Trujillo, and she is saying, when I look at the pictures of Mars, I see the Mojave Desert, right? And we can see here she is the lead engineer of Surface Readiness Test Program at NASA JPL. And then she goes on to say, but I can't tell the difference if this image is from the Mojave Desert or if this is from Mars. So straight away we have a great example of someone who is doing something very important in the Mars mission, and the only thing she can really refer to is somewhere on Earth. And it's just ironic that Mars is said to be very similar to some of the dry places on Earth. So here we have a photograph of one of Earth's very dry deserts, and we can see here a surface that is very similar to the kind of rocks and dust and sand we are seeing on the pictures from Mars at the moment being delivered from the rover. We do see a road here, so we know that this is actually on the Earth. But with a couple of filters and things, we can just as easily change this to make it look as if it's a scene on a red dusty planet with a kind of hazy atmosphere filled with dust storms, and that's not reaching not so much sunlight because it's further away from the sun. We can very easily create these photographs, and in fact what you saw at the very beginning of this was not actually a shot from NASA of anything landing on another planet. It was just of terrain very similar to this that was taken from several thousand feet high in an aircraft. And as you see the next clip from that, you'll see that there are vast expanses of desert on this Earth where there are no inhabitants and there are no real signs of life that could easily be used for replicating the kind of conditions one would expect to see on Mars. And all the instruments that are on the rovers could all be sending back data, and they could be taking soil samples. They may or may not be true, but how would anyone verify what they're receiving? And then we have the questions as to whether the technology that has been developed would actually work in the environment that we are told it is in. For example, the Mars rover is said to have been parachuted down to the surface, and then it was let down on cables beneath a cradle with thrusters on it and left there to do its thing, and it apparently survived all this to send photographs and footage back to us. However, has any real testing ever been done on the Earth to simulate the kind of environment that it will be experiencing there? For example, the atmosphere is said to be so thin on Mars that it is the same as being 100,000 feet above the surface of the Earth, where the air is very thin and you even need oxygen to breathe. Has anyone ever used a parachute at that height? I can't find any evidence of that. And I also cannot find any evidence of people testing this rover and its parachutes on or above the Earth in real conditions to see if those chutes would actually open. It all comes down to being based on faith. Everyone has to have faith that these people in their compartmentalized positions did the right equations and made the right guesses, and it all worked out in the end, because no one ever saw it ever really happen in full on the earth. It all comes down to having faith. And that's where you have to discern the difference between real knowledge and belief. Thank you very much.
Click subscribe and the bell icon if you'd like to receive notifications of new videos from Phuket Word.